Hello, and thanks for listening to PXP Podcast. It's a show about leadership, self-development, personal growth, and accountability. I'm your host, Jayme Yarrow. Now, you can catch our podcast on almost any platform or directly from our website at pxppodcast.com. To hear it hot off the press, check out our host on the Podbean app. If you have questions or want to hear a particular topic discussed, or even want to be a guest on the show, connect with me on social and send me a message. Now, are you ready to kick off today's episode? All right, here we go.
Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time zone you might be listening in. Welcome to PXP. I'm your host, Jayme Yarrow, and today's episode is a special one. It was inspired by a quick 1-minute inspirational audio that I recorded, and I want to play that for you so you can get the context of what we're going to be talking about today and where it came from. Here it is. Here's the big question. What's got you so scared to take that next big leap? You see, fear is a master illusionist. It loves to exaggerate the unknown or to blow up risks, and to make you think that failure is inevitable if you step outside your comfort zone. But here's the truth. Fear is just a signal. It's not there to stop you. It's there to remind you that something important is on the line and that you're about to grow. So, what's the real fear? Is it a fear of failure? A fear of judgment? Maybe a fear of losing what you've built so far? Whatever your fear is, identify it. Bring it to light, because when you name it, listen to me, you can tame it. Success is never found in the safe zone. You know that. It's in that uncertain space where courage and fear meet. And that's where real breakthroughs happen. All right, that's the gist of kind of what we're going to be talking about today. And if you're interested in receiving messages like that a few times a week, I'm going to put some information in the show notes about a new WhatsApp and a new Telegram group that I'm going to start just to be able to share these. So I think that's an easy way to get them out. You can join a group, and then when they're released, they just pop into your group and you can listen to them then. So this episode is especially close to my heart. It's dedicated to my daughter, Kaycee Grace, who is listening to this while she runs in the Charlotte Half Marathon. She called me and asked me if I would be sure to record a new podcast so that she would have something to listen to while she was out there running. So we're going to cheer her along throughout this podcast. But to everyone else that's tuning in, I think you're going to find this episode especially meaningful. We're going to dive into this thing that everyone faces that you heard in that 1-minute audio. Whether it's a race or a project or a new adventure or a new venture or a life challenge, and that thing is fear. And specifically, I want to talk about the fear that sneaks in when we're on the edge of something big, something that could be a game changer if we were just brave enough to pursue it. And Kaycee, as you listen to this on your run, know that these words are here to cheer you on. You've been training for this, and this race is yours. I'm supporting you every step of the way. Everyone listening is now supporting you every step of the way. And just like all of us are out here cheering for each other in this race of life, you've got this. So here's the big question that I want everyone to think about today. What has got you so scared that you are afraid to take that next big leap? As I mentioned in my 1-minute audio, fear is a master illusionist. It's sneaky, and it has a way of making things look so much bigger and so much scarier than they really are, doesn't it? It exaggerates things, risks, and it builds up or amplifies the unknown. And it makes you believe that failure is practically guaranteed if you step outside your comfort zone. But listen, the truth is, fear is just a signal. And it's not there to stop you. It's there to remind you that something important is on the line and that you're about to grow. And now when we talk about fear, I just want to make a distinguishment. We're not talking about instinctual fears, right? The kind that kick in when you're startled by something or you feel a chill from something like the dark or the fear of clowns or a spooky story or the boogeyman or whatever that is, right? Those fears are natural reactions. And those are wired into us for survival. But the fear we're talking about today, what we're exploring today is different. This fear shows up when we're about to start something new or when we're going to take on a challenge, when we're going to chase a dream, or when we even think about chasing that dream. You know, sometimes it's not even the act of doing it, but it's the act of thinking about doing it. I talk to people who they just want to chase their dream, but it's such a scary thing to them to disrupt what their normal is, to do something that's completely radical or different in their life, even though deep down inside, they know that that would bring them joy. But they're just afraid to take that first step, right? It's the kind of fear that signals that something's big, something is meaningful to us, and it's just on the other side. And unlike that instinctual fear, this is a productive fear. This fear is a sign that growth is coming, even if it feels intimidating. And the first step in dealing with fear is understanding it. Fear has a purpose. But listen, it's not meant to hold you back. That's not the purpose of fear. It's not meant to stop you in your tracks or even to make you change your mind or make you think it's too big or it's too intimidating. I just can't go down that road. The fact is, fear often appears the strongest when you're on the brink of something amazing. Let me say that again because it's so important. Fear is often the strongest when you are on the brink of something amazing. When you feel that grip of fear, that's your mind saying to you, hey, there's something big here and this matters. And we got to tune into that. We can't turn it off. It's like a radar for opportunity. You know, and it's signaling that something is worth our attention. Now, I want to get a little personal here with you. I want you to think about a time when fear held you back. When it held you back from something that you wanted to do, you thought you should do, you thought would bring you joy, you were excited about but super scared. Maybe it was a fear of failing, right, on a project or maybe a personal thing or a work thing or a hobby. You wanted to start a new hobby, but you were afraid of failure in it. Maybe it was a fear of rejection or a fear of stepping out. Maybe a fear of stepping out on your own and betting on yourself. Are you afraid to bet on yourself? Do you lack that self-confidence that you know that if you put your mind to it, you can accomplish it? If self-confidence is a challenge of yours, I want you to go back and listen to episodes 107 through 110, I believe they were. I did a whole series on building self-confidence. And if you're afraid to bet on yourself, then the first step is to build up that self-confidence because you can do what you put your mind to. You can do it. David Goggins says when your brain says that you can't go any further, that you're done, you can't do anything else, you're only 40% there. Like you got a lot more in the tank. And Kaycee, I know running a half marathon is no small task. And I know there were days when your training felt so hard, when you were running in the dark and those long runs, and even the fears that you felt while you were out running. Sometimes it probably even felt impossible. But remember, that fear you felt, that was just a sign of how much this race and how much your training meant to you. And listen, the next step is to identify the specific kind of fear that you're dealing with. For so many, it's a fear of being judged, especially in today's world where social media has a way of magnifying that fear. Our younger generations in particular, especially those who have grown up with social media, they often place a ton of weight on likes and follows and comments. I created a meme months, maybe even years ago. I've reused it several times. All it says is authenticity is greater than likes. And I believe that to my core. I would rather be my authentic self, and those who like or follow or listen to what I do because I'm my authentic self, that brings me so much more joy than being disingenuous and getting likes as a result of not being who I am, right? These young people, though, when they put all this weight on likes and follows and comments, and then when they don't receive that validation, it can feel like rejection or even a judgment against them. And it's easy for us to sit back and say, well, don't worry about what other people think. But the truth is, that's a lot harder said than done when validation from others has become a habit, or it's even ingrained or a measure of someone's self-worth. You know, when I got to the place in my life where I genuinely didn't care what others thought of me, listen, that was absolute freedom, right? There's so much unnecessary weight that we place on ourselves when we worry about judgment or seek approval from other people. Yeah, absolutely, we all want acceptance and we want respect, but letting that desire turn into a need for validation can hold us back in such huge ways. You know, here's something I tell people all the time. If that person isn't someone you'd go to for advice, then why do you care about their criticism? Why do you give their criticism any weight? If you wouldn't go to them for advice, then who cares what they think, right? This fear of judgment, especially from strangers or superficial connections, it's often just a distraction. It takes us away from what really matters. Imagine what you could accomplish if you just let it go. When you name this fear, when you say, this is my fear of judgment, you take away some of its power. It becomes just that, a thought, a story that your mind is telling you. And all stories can be rewritten. And Kaycee, as you are out there running, remember this. No one else's opinion can define you. You are the one putting in the work. Mile after mile, step after step, you are strong, you are brave and capable, probably more than you even realize. So let this run be about your journey, about your strength, and about the pride that you're going to feel when you cross that finish line. So keep pushing forward, knowing that you are unstoppable. You know, one of the biggest traps that we fall into is the comfort zone. Staying safe, it feels good. It feels comfortable. Like that's just a comfortable place to be, right? The thing that we're used to, our habits, the thing that's normal to us, just our day-to-day, it feels comfortable. But I've said this before, just because it's comfortable doesn't mean it brings you joy and happiness. Our comfort zone sometimes is a miserable place to be. But because it's comfortable, sometimes we stay there. Because change is hard and change is scary. And change takes work. Right? But here's the hard truth. There's no growth in the safe zone. When we do what every day, the same thing over and over, when we just have our routines and we just stay in that, and that's our comfort zone, we don't grow. There's no growth in staying in the comfort zone or in the safe zone. The successes that you dream about, think about it. I want you to just stop and just pause and think about that life that you long for. Like, what is that? What is that thing that you just desire to do? I'll share mine with you. I want to have a truck and an Airstream, and I just want to travel, right? I want to set up my recording studio in my office with my 4 27-inch monitors, and I want to have it all set up and built out in the Airstream. And I just want to work from wherever I am. I can mentor and I can podcast and I can record voiceovers and I can write, all from wherever I can drive, right? So wherever I end up, I can explore the country and I can be inspired by the places and the people that I meet. And then I can turn that inspiration into something that will create a positive impact in the lives of others through podcasting and recording and writing and meeting people. So what's your dream? That life that you envision, the successes that you dream about, or the breakthroughs that you want to make, the changes that maybe you want to leave a legacy for. Well, guess what? For you, for me, that is all outside our comfort zone. None of those things that you just dreamt about, none of the things I just articulated, none of that happens if we stay in our comfort zone, in our day-to-day, in our normal. And the difference between those who achieve their goals and those who don't often comes down to one thing: courage. And courage isn't the absence of fear. It's the choice to keep going even when fear shows up. Fear is going to show up. We're all going to experience fear. It's not an absence of fear we're looking for, but it's a courage to push through when fear shows up. It's the willingness to be uncomfortable, to stretch yourself, to feel uncertain at times, to feel outside your comfort zone or feel abnormal or to miss that normalcy because this is scary, but all that and still go forward. This is what separates those who simply dream, and maybe that's you right now, from those who go out there and make those dreams real. And Kaycee, with each mile, know that the discomfort that you're feeling is just part of this. It's the proof that you're giving it everything, baby girl. Keep moving forward. I am so proud of you. And now here is a powerful shift. Instead of seeing fear as an enemy, I want you to see it as a companion. So hang on and listen to me for just a second. Fear is going to be there, right? I said that it's just part of it. So it's going to be there, especially when we're doing something that's meaningful or new or big or challenging or whatever, fill in the blank right there. You don't need to eliminate fear. You need to embrace it. But how do we do that, right? So ask yourself this: what is on the other side of this fear? So you've identified the fear. You've named it. And listen, when you name the fear, you can tame the fear. We have to identify what that fear is. But when you name it, now you can tame it. So think, what is on the other side of this fear? Because often what's on the other side is the life that you've always wanted, the success that you have worked so hard for, and the person that you're trying to become. I end every podcast with a little phrase that says, I hope that something we said today helps you to become a better version of yourself, right? So what's on the other side of that fear might be the person you're trying to become, the best version of you. And when you lean into that fear, you discover all sorts of new strengths, all sorts of hidden talents, and most of all, courage that you didn't even know you had. Kaycee, think of all the miles that you've already put in. The early mornings, sometimes in the dark, those days when you pushed through fatigue and soreness or even injury, and the times when you kept going even when it was hard. All of that prepared you for this. So when you feel the burn, when you want to stop, remember, you've already done the hardest part. The training, that was the hard part. Today is the reward. Here's the thing. There is no strength without struggle. Every setback, every time you get knocked down, you're building resilience. And those struggles, they don't define you no more than our past defines you. I have stood up and screamed that from the rooftops, that your past does not define you. But your struggles don't define you either, but your response to those struggles does define you. We don't have a lot that we can control in this world. We really don't. There's so much that's out of our control, but the one thing that we can control is how we react. So when a struggle comes your way, what does that look like? What does your response look like? How do you react? When you keep showing up, when you keep going forward, despite the challenges, that's where you find that true strength. You are capable of accomplishing so much more than what your mind will tell you that you can sometimes. Right? In business, in personal growth, or even, Kaycee, when you're on this marathon path, it's often the times when you feel the most resistance that you are closest to a breakthrough. You're closest to that thing that's going to take you that next, boost, that next long ways. And Kaycee, when you listen to this, know that you are so much stronger than you realize. You are made for this. At some point in the journey, whether it's a half marathon or a career challenge, or maybe a personal something, a goal, something you're doing personally, you're going to encounter discomfort. And it might look like exhaustion or self-doubt, a lack of self-confidence or frustration. It doesn't matter how it appears, but it's part of the process. Discomfort is often a sign that you're on the edge of growth. One of the greatest truths that I've ever learned is that growth and comfort don't coexist. Let me say that again. Growth and comfort don't coexist. You won't find them together. You can't stay comfortable and reach new heights at the same time. And if you're comfortable, you're staying where you are. Real growth, like the kind that moves you to the next level, the kind that gets you to a place where you can find success, or you can find joy, you can live the life that you want to live, that demands that you get a little uncomfortable and you lean into the struggle instead of shying away from it. And if you'd rather be comfortable, if you'd rather just not be bothered, look, no judgment on my part, but I'm just here to tell you that if that's what your preference is, then don't expect big things to happen in your life. Because growth and comfort don't coexist. When you step outside of what's familiar to you or what's comfortable to you, you're giving yourself a chance to become someone stronger, someone more resilient, and more capable of what you can do today versus what you could do yesterday, and tomorrow will be even more. Right? It's a continual path of growth when we get outside of what's uncomfortable. It's like working a muscle. When you go to the gym, you don't go stronger by lifting weights that feel easy. You challenge yourself by pushing the limits and getting uncomfortable, right? And embracing that discomfort. That's what brings growth. If I went to the gym and I just lifted the bar with no weight on it, I'm not going to grow my muscles. I have to put weight on there. I have to get outside the comfort zone. I can't go to the gym and be comfortable and then expect results. Same thing with this, right? Until you get uncomfortable, until you push yourself out of your comfort zone, you're not going to find that life that you envision, that success that you're chasing, that breakthrough that you hope to find. Think about a time in your life when you overcame something difficult, right? Something that was hard, something maybe that you thought you wouldn't get past, or you wouldn't overcome, or you wouldn't accomplish. Maybe it was a tough time at work, or maybe a setback in your personal life, or a goal that you just never envisioned that you'd actually reach. So just take a second and think about that. So you faced that challenge, even when it wasn't easy. And in doing so, you became stronger. Right? I always tell people, like, you're going through a struggle right now, this is a tough season in life, right? This is something really hard that you're trying to get through. And I always say, think about that time when you went through XYZ. Remember that? And you said to yourself, I'm not going to get through this. Or there's no way I'm going to get through this. Or I have no idea how I'm going to get through this. And guess what? You did. You're on the other side, and this is just a new challenge. Right? You faced that challenge even when it wasn't easy. So you can face this one, even though it's not easy. Those moments of discomfort, those are the things that shape us into people with, resilience and strength. The strength that we can handle future challenges. And Kaycee, right now, if you're feeling the ache, if your legs are tired, and the finish line feels far away, remember that this is your moment of growth. Every step you take, it's continuing to build your endurance, not just for today, but for the challenges that lie ahead. When you push through this discomfort, you're telling yourself, I can get through the next discomfort. So embrace this as proof that you're getting stronger with each mile. You are tougher than this moment. Now, here's a mindset shift that can make all the difference. Right? Try to see challenges as opportunities rather than obstacles. And I know that is so hard to do, way easier said than done. Right? Instead of thinking, why is this happening to me? Ask yourself, what is this teaching me? How can I grow from this? I read something a long time ago, or maybe I even heard it, but it has stuck with me. And it goes like this. In order to move past a bad situation, you have to disconnect from how you feel, and you have to understand what you learned. In order to move past a bad situation, you have to disconnect from how it made you feel and focus on what you learned. And that is so true, because sometimes we hold on to things, bad situations, people that hurt us, jobs that hurt us, whatever that was, right? Failures in our life. We hold on to those things and we almost hold a grudge, and we focus on how it made us feel. But really what we need to do is focus on what we learned, because every failure is a learning point, right? Nobody ever found success without failures along the way, right? And do you think those failures meant nothing? Absolutely, they meant something. They were learning points along the way. From those failures, you pivot. You learn lessons. You learn mistakes not to repeat. You fine-tune things. You course correct. And from that failure, you get better. And when you're in the middle of a challenge, it's easy to only see the difficulty and miss the lesson that's hiding underneath. And maybe a project didn't go like you planned, or you're feeling the sting of some disappointment. Or maybe like so many people, you're afraid of taking a risk because the stakes feel so high. But often the biggest setbacks and the hardest moments are just life's way of preparing you for something bigger. Reframing those challenges as growth opportunities doesn't mean that we ignore the difficulty or we even dismiss how hard it was. It just means that we're going to acknowledge it and we're going to choose to see it as something valuable. It's a mindset shift. That it is something that has the potential to shape you into a stronger or even wiser person, right? For every challenge that comes your way, I want you to remind yourself that you're not the same person you were before you faced it. You're so much stronger. You're so much more courageous, and you are more prepared for what comes next. And that strength, listen, is priceless. You can't manufacture that. You can't dream that up. Strength comes through growth. It comes from overcoming things. It comes from facing challenges and pushing through them. And Kaycee, as you keep running, think about everything this journey is teaching you. Every stride forward is showing you just how resilient, how strong, how powerful you really are. And no matter how challenging the path might get, you're learning and you're growing and you're proving to yourself that you can overcome anything. My two boys are in the middle of fire department recruit school. It lasts, I think, 18 or 20 weeks long, and they just finished a week that is called SCBA week, or self-contained breathing apparatus week. It used to be appropriately called Hell Week because it's so physically and emotionally draining. And I know this because I went through the same recruit school at the same department that my boys are going through, and I did it back in 1997. There are two specific drills that I did when I went through recruit school that my boys had to do as well during Hell Week. One is called the nut and bolt drill, and the other one is the poker chip drill. And in both cases, you have to search a blacked out building. Your mask is blacked out and the building is blacked out to find dummy victims. And in the nut and bolt drill, when you find the first victim, someone is there to give you a bolt. And then you move on to find the next victim. And when you do, someone gives you a washer. And then you move on to find the next victim. And when you find that one, they give you a nut. And when you have all the parts, you have to put the bolt and the washer and the nut together, and then you have to find your way out of the building, all without running out of air in your air pack. And if you miss a victim, you miss one of those pieces, and you have to go back and find it. You have to continue searching until you find it. And you have a limited amount of air, and you're exhausted, and so it can be very challenging. And the poker chip drill is relatively the same thing, but instead of a nut and a washer and a bolt, they give you a red, white, and blue poker chip when you find each victim. And then you have to find your way out of the building as well. It is incredibly exhausting, and it can be very mentally taxing, particularly if you miss one of those pieces and you have to go back and try to find it. But when you come out of the building and you're holding that nut and that bolt and that washer, or you've got all three poker chips, you know at that moment there is nothing that you cannot do. Overcoming that challenge, it builds the courage and the strength and the determination to tackle the next and even bigger challenge. You know, resilience is something that we build over time. It's not something we're born with. It's developed through every single moment we choose to keep going, to rise again after a setback, to stand strong or firm in the face of fear. And here's the thing. Resilience is what carries you forward when motivation fades or when the initial excitement of a new goal wears off, because we get that way sometimes, don't we? Our motivation can be like a roller coaster, depending on a variety of things, right? How we feel, how the day is going, how the circumstances are. It can be like a roller coaster. And sometimes, you know, our initial excitement for that new thing, it can just kind of wear off a little bit. But it's resilience. It's building a resilient mindset. That means committing to the process, even on the days when you don't feel like it. You know, there's a lot of people who can be successful for a day or two, but the ones that truly push through and reach the goals that they want to accomplish are those that push through on the days when they don't want to. It's showing up for yourself again and again, choosing to believe in the power that you have in your own potential. You're going to face times when things don't go as planned, or when you fall short of a goal, or when you hit a setback that makes you question everything that you're doing. You know how sometimes you're going down a path and you just believe this is exactly what you should be doing, and then something happens. You know, you hit a setback, you hit a roadblock, a speed bump, and it makes you question, am I even on the right path? It makes you question that sometimes, doesn't it? Those are the times when resilience is built. When you choose to keep going no matter what. Think about it this way. Each small act of resilience is like adding another brick to the foundation of your strength. And the stronger your foundation, the higher you can go. Kaycee, remember that this race is just one chapter in your story. Today you're building this resilience that we're talking about, and that will carry you through all of the challenges and the successes ahead. And when you cross that finish line, you'll know just how much strength you hold within you, what you can overcome. Embrace this journey, knowing that each step is making you stronger, not just for today, but for every challenge that you're going to face in the future, because they're coming. So to everyone listening, I want to leave you with this. The next time that you feel fear creeping in, I want you to recognize it for what it is. Don't let it hold you back from the life that you want, or from the person that you want to become, from being the best version of yourself, as I always say when we end a podcast. Remember, fear is just a signal. It's there to let you know that something meaningful is on the line. We talked about it that at the very beginning of this podcast. It's just a signal. So name it, because when you name it, you can tame it. And then understand it, right? Understand that fear, where it's coming from. And then push past it, right? And move forward anyway. Courage isn't the absence of fear, remember? It's the decision to go forward in spite of it. Let me say that again. Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's the decision to go forward in spite of it. Kaycee, if you're nearing those last miles, know this: you are so close. The finish line is just ahead. Everything that you've done has led you here. Now give it everything that you've got. All right, PXP, here is your challenge for the week. Identify one fear that's been holding you back. So name it so that you can tame it. Understand it. Commit to taking one small step forward. And share this journey with someone who might need it too. Somebody maybe that helps be your accountability partner, or that you can encourage. You can be an encouragement to them, and you can motivate them. You can inspire them to face their own fears. And Kaycee, thank you for asking for this and inspiring this episode today. You are an amazing young woman, and everyone listening to this podcast is cheering you on. Know that. And that is all the time we've got for today. Thanks for listening. Won't you share it with the 5 closest people in your circle? Because chances are, if you liked it, they're going to like it too. Most of all, though, I hope that something that we said today helps you to become a better version of yourself. I'm your host, Jayme Yarrow, and I hope you have an amazing day.